So, think about the last time you felt just completely overwhelmed by a massive database, like a giant, unorganized spreadsheet just staring back at you.
Oh yeah, we have all been there. It is not fun.
Right, just thousands of rows of raw data that you somehow need to magically turn into an actionable strategy. Or honestly, even closer to home, just look at your inbox right now.
It's basically a disaster zone.
Yeah, exactly. Think about how many generic, automated, completely tone-deaf sales pitches are just sitting in there. The ones where someone scraped your email off a list and decided, you desperately need their enterprise software.
Even though their pitch proves they have absolutely no idea what your daily operations actually look like.
Exactly. It's so frustrating.
It really is. And I mean, it has basically become the defining feature of modern business communication. Everyone is just playing this massive, exhausting numbers game.
Right, like volume over quality.
Precisely. The prevailing logic is just build the biggest list possible, blast a million emails, and, hope that 0.01% of the recipients accidentally click reply. It's really just an exercise in creating noise.
Well, today we are going to look at a system that completely inverts that logic. We have this fascinating stack of sources for our deep dive today, exploring a highly specific, honestly revolutionary approach to B2B sales.
Yeah, it's called the GRG Prospecting Intelligence System.
And our mission for this deep dive is to explore exactly how this framework operates, because our sources give us an incredible behind-the-scenes look. We are working from a comprehensive design notebook that maps out GRG's entire philosophy.
Which is great on its own, but we also have something way better.
We do. The most compelling part is that we have the raw, unedited sample outputs from their AI qualification agent, which they call Codex.
And I have to say, that is incredibly rare to get our hands on. Usually, companies treat their AI prompts and the raw outputs like heavily guarded trade secrets.
Oh, for sure. They only want you to see the shiny stuff.
Exactly. They show you the polished end result. But getting to actually see the algorithmic math, the specific decisions and the dead ends the AI navigated, it's a total gold mine for understanding how to actually deploy artificial intelligence effectively.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Because while the subject matter here is technically freight logistics, this is fundamentally a masterclass in how to perfectly divide labor between AI and human expertise.
It really is a blueprint for any industry.
So let's start at the very beginning of their process, which is the data dump.
Right. So traditional prospecting usually starts with like a demographic wish list. A sales director will say, give me all the manufacturing companies in California with $10 to $50 million in annual revenue.
Right, just a very broad filter.
Yeah. They purchase that list, find some executive titles that sound vaguely relevant, send a generic message, and basically just beg for 15 minutes of their time.
Which rarely works.
Because the fundamental flaw there is that the seller is manufacturing a reason to talk to them completely out of thin air.
Yeah, you're just blindly throwing darts, hoping they happen to have a problem you can solve that specific week. But GRG reverses this dynamic entirely. They do not start with a wish list.
No, they start with historical evidence, which is completely different.
Right. According to the design notebook, their starting test data source was a massive master file of historical shipment records. We are talking about 30,675 actual documented past shipments.
Yeah, and that is a crucial distinction. That isn't a prospect list. That is raw historical intelligence.
Exactly. So from that massive pile of over 30,000 records, they had to segment the data to figure out where a human sales team should actually, focus their energy.
Right, because you can't just call 30,000 people.
Okay.
So they broke the data down into distinct groups. Things like California prepaid, California controlled, out-of-state controlled.
But there was one segment that stood out, right?
Yes. The most important segment, the one they actually designated as Priority 1, was a category called Hawaii Controlled. And that specific segment whittled that massive database down to just 831 names.
Okay, wow. So out of over 30,000 records, they zeroed in on just 831 companies that were shipping goods to Hawaii.
Yep, just a tiny fraction.
So the obvious question here is why? Why does the GRG system flag Hawaii-controlled freight as the absolute top priority?
It all comes down to identifying the strongest economic motivation. When a shipment is designated as Hawaii-controlled, it means the customer located in Hawaii historically controlled the freight and paid for it directly.
Oh, so rather than the mainland supplier handling all the logistics.
Exactly. Think about the physical geography involved here.
Hmm.
Shipping heavy physical products from the mainland United States across the Pacific Ocean to the Hawaiian Islands is incredibly expensive.
Yeah.
And the logistics are highly, highly complex.
I can imagine it's not just a quick truck ride.
Not at all. You have inland trucking, ocean container routing, port handling fees. If the Hawaii buyer is the one controlling that freight, they are directly feeling the financial pain of those shipping costs.
Right, they're the ones dealing with the routing headaches and the transit delays.
And the vendor decisions. Out of everyone in that giant database, this specific group has the absolute highest incentive to care about finding a better shipping option.
That makes total sense. They have the most to gain and, frankly, the most to lose if their supply chain breaks down. But having a historical shipment record presents its own unique challenge, doesn't it?
It absolutely does.
Because knowing that a company shipped a container of goods, say, 3 years ago, it's a lot like having an old treasure map.
Yeah.
It proves that treasure was buried at those coordinates at some point in the past.
Right. It's historical fact.
But that piece of paper absolutely does not prove that the business is still operating today, or that they still buy those specific materials from the mainland, or that they still control their own transportation.
Exactly. If you just hand those 831 names to a team of highly paid human account executives and tell them to start dialing, you are wasting an immense amount of resources.
Because things change.
Drastically.
Yeah.
Your experts are going to spend 80% of their day calling disconnected phone numbers, navigating endless phone trees, or talking to businesses that fundamentally changed their operating model during the pandemic.
So the historical data is the old treasure map. But instead of sending a human with a shovel to just blindly dig holes all over the island, you need something to verify the gold is still there before you ever pick up the shovel.
That is the perfect way to look at it.
So how do we verify the opportunity without burning hundreds of human hours? I mean, this leads directly into the role of the AI, right?
Yeah.
GRG built a system called Codex.
They did.
Yes.
But the design notebook is very careful to explicitly state what Codex is. It is a research and qualification agent. It is not an autonomous salesperson.
Right, it doesn't actually write to customers.
No, it operates purely as a detective, a highly analytical, tireless detective. Codex takes that segmented list of 800 names and filters it down using an incredibly rigorous qualification formula.
And it isn't just checking if the company has a functioning website, right? Like, it's doing deep research.
Oh, way deeper. It is hunting for a very specific overlapping combination of factors. The formula they refined works like this. First, does the company have a history of Hawaii-controlled freight?
Okay, yes, check.
Next, is it a currently operating business? Third, can we definitively identify a mainland manufacturer or supplier relationship?
Which proves they're still bringing stuff in.
Exactly. Fourth, is there evidence of freight-scale physical products, meaning they aren't just shipping small parcels or envelopes, they're actually shipping heavy pallets of industrial materials. And finally, is there evidence of active receiving or warehouse replenishment?
Wow. It's essentially looking for proof of life, but specifically proof of freight life.
That is exactly what it is doing.
And our sources provide the actual raw examples from Codex's Batch 1 output, which really illustrates how this AI gathers this intelligence. Codex doesn't just guess, it cross-references.
It shows its work, basically.
Right. For example, it looked at a company on the list called Commercial Shelving, which apparently also operates under the name CSI Builders. Codex scoured public distributor locator pages and identified a clear relationship with a major mainland equipment manufacturer called Right Height.
Which checks the mainland supplier box.
Exactly. Then it scraped public construction bids to verify they deal in heavy commercial-grade equipment, and it promoted them to a qualified A candidate. It executed a similar process for a company called Alpha Electric Supply, also marking them qualified A.
We can also look at how it handled a prospect called LE Glass and Metal.
Yeah.
Codex scanned public architectural supplier directories and identified a verified connection to Guardian Glass on the mainland.
Okay, so another strong link.
Yep. It confirmed that LE Glass regularly ships fragile, heavy architectural glass materials and promoted them to qualified B. But, the real intelligence isn't just in who it approves.
Right, it's in who it holds back.
Exactly. It researched a very well-known local company called Aloha Shoyu and decided to put them on a watch status. It didn't just blindly pass them through the filter just because they were a recognizable name in Hawaii.
The methodology GRG used to build this is just fascinating. They deliberately didn't unleash Codex on all 30,000 records or even the full 800 all at once. They used very small, controlled batches.
And that is a critical lesson in AI deployment right there. In those early small batches, GRG discovered that public information just didn't reliably establish things like current mainland shipping lanes.
Or who controlled the transportation.
Right. And a lot of development teams would look at that result and conclude that the AI failed, or that the required data simply didn't exist online.
They just scrapped the project.
Yeah. But GRG didn't treat a lack of public information as a dead end. They treated it as a cue to tighten their research question.
Oh, I see.
They continuously refined the prompt, teaching Codex exactly what subtle clues would satisfy that rigorous qualification formula. Things like specific types of loading docks visible on satellite imagery, or specific language in job postings for warehouse staff.
Wow, looking at satellite imagery for loading docks, that is intense. So Codex operates as this incredibly fine mesh filter. You pour hundreds of names in, and it drips out a handful of highly defensible, explainable candidates.
Exactly.
But, finding the right company is kind of useless if the AI just fires an email into a general info at inbox. If Codex knows commercial shelving needs freight services, how does it figure out who actually holds the purse strings?
Well, this requires a transition to the stage GRG calls contact resolution. This is the precise moment where artificial intelligence and human intelligence have to blend seamlessly to identify the actual human decision maker inside that vetted company.
Okay, I have to push back here. Because as someone who works with large language models frequently, I know their biggest flaw.
Hallucinations.
Yes. If you give an AI a quota to find contact information, it really wants to please you. It will absolutely hallucinate an email address just to complete the task.
It happens all the time.
Right. If it can't find the purchasing director's email, it will confidently guess the standard format like firstname.lastname at company.com and present it to you as an absolute fact. So, if this system is built on AI, how do they prevent Codex from just guessing contacts to keep its success metrics artificially high?
It's a great question because that is the single most common trap with AI lead generation tools. And GRG engineered Codex specifically to avoid it by removing the pressure to produce a complete result every single time.
Really? How so?
The sources highlight an incredible example of this safeguard working perfectly with the Alpha Electric supply output. Codex successfully ran the gauntlet and identified Alpha Electric as a qualified A company. But when it came to finding the specific person in charge of transportation, Codex explicitly labeled the output as POC not resolved.
Point of contact not resolved. It just threw its hands up and admitted it didn't know.
It did. The AI noted in its output that while the company clearly has continual warehouse receiving activity, it could not verify the name of the purchasing or inventory leader from an authoritative public source.
Wow.
It even showed its reasoning, noting that just grabbing the company president's name off the website wouldn't be accurate for the specific operational problem of daily freight replenishment.
Because the president isn't the one managing the warehouse stock.
Exactly. So instead of hallucinating an email address or feeding the human sales team a totally useless contact, it just stopped. It flagged the file for human enrichment. It essentially told the team, hey, I have verified this company as a highly qualified target, but a human needs to pick up the phone and call their Oahu sales office to map out their organizational chart.
That is so smart. And contrast that behavior with the commercial shelving example. For them, Codex successfully verified a man named Mike Tinoco as the vice president and owner. And it didn't just guess, it cited its sources.
Right, it proved its work.
Yeah, it found public contractor information tying him directly to project management and equipment ordering. It mathematically proved he was the right guy.
If you connect this to your own daily work, think about how incredibly powerful it would be to have an automated system that is confident enough to look you in the eye and say, I don't know, instead of confidently feeding you bad data.
It saves so much damage. Right. If an AI hallucinates an email and your sales rep sends a pitch to a dead address or the wrong executive, your company's domain reputation takes a hit, your email deliverability drops, and you've burned a bridge before you even introduced yourself.
Exactly. By forcing the AI to admit when it cannot resolve a point of contact, GRG created a mandatory safety valve. The AI handles the grueling scale of finding and vetting the companies, and human beings step in to surgically resolve the tricky organizational structures.
Okay, so we now have a thoroughly vetted company. We have proof they ship heavy physical products from the mainland to Hawaii. And we have a verified human target, like Damon Shida, the president over at Ollie Glass and Metal. We have his actual verified email address.
All teed up and ready to go.
But if we send a garbage generic message, all of this high-level research is completely wasted. What exactly do they say to guarantee this executive doesn't just instantly hit delete?
This delves into the psychology of what GRG calls the locked message. And this is fascinating. During the system's development phase, Codex kept trying to be helpful by dynamically rewriting the customer-facing email.
Oh, because it had all that data.
Right. Because it had just gathered all this rich intelligence, it wanted to generate a unique, hyper-personalized pitch for every single prospect.
Which, on the surface sounds like the holy grail of sales. Like, hey, Damon, I see your company purchases Guardian Glass from this specific mainland distributor and ships it to your warehouse on this exact street.
Yeah, but in practice, it is incredibly jarring for the buyer. It leaks your internal intelligence gathering into the customer message, which makes you sound less like a logistics partner and a lot more like a stalker.
Right. It's just creepy.
It really is. Furthermore, from a scientific testing perspective, if the AI constantly changes the variables of the message every single time, you can never accurately measure what copy actually converts.
Oh, that's true. You have no baseline.
Exactly. So, GRG put a hard stop to it. They firmly locked down the outreach email. The AI is strictly forbidden from writing the message to the customer.
They created a psychological gauntlet for this locked email. According to the design notebook, the rules for this message are fascinating because of what they actually forbid. Rule 1, do not ask the prospect to replace their current provider.
Which is huge.
Rule 2, do not request a copy of their past invoices. Rule 3, do not ask for their current freight rates. And Rule 4, do not ask for a meeting.
When you think about it, those are the exact 4 things almost every single logistics salesperson asks for in their very first cold email.
And buyers absolutely despise it because you are basically asking them to do work for you. Pulling invoices and digging up historical rates is massive friction.
Nobody's time for that.
No. So instead, GRG uses a framework they call the one shipment test. The email is deliberately, almost aggressively short. We have the exact drafted email for Damon Ishida at Ali Glass in our sources.
And what does it actually say?
It essentially reads, Damon, Guardian Glass identifies you as a Hawaii supplier. Your commercial glazing involves fragile materials. We'd like to compare one recent mainland shipment side by side for routing and landed cost. You don't have to change providers. You don't have to give us an invoice.
Straight to the point.
Very. And then right in the body of the email, it provides blank text fields for the executive to quickly fill out. Shipment date, origin ZIP code, destination ZIP code, total weight, and commodity. That's the entire ask.
By formatting it this way, it lowers the barrier to entry to almost zero. They even close the email with a brilliant, confident line. Don't trust us. Test us.
Don't trust us, test us. I love that. It reframes the entire dynamic. You aren't asking for a favor. You are challenging them to verify your expertise.
And there are 2 more crucial structural details about this outreach phase. First, the email is designed to be highly forwardable.
Right, because the president might not book the shit.
Exactly. If Damon Ishida isn't the person who actually sits at a computer and books it, the email is cleanly formatted, so he can simply hit forward, send it to his warehouse manager, and add a quick note saying, hey, fill this out and see what these guys come back with.
That is so frictionless.
Second, and this is vital, the initial send of this email is strictly manual.
Wait, really? After all this complex AI automation, crawling public records and cross-referencing distributor pages, they force a human being to manually hit the send button.
Intentionally. It serves as a final, controlled validation stage. A human expert reviews the AI's research file, verifies the logic of the point of contact, pastes the locked message into their standard email client, and hits send personally.
Okay, I see.
It ensures no bizarre algorithmic formatting slips through and preserves a true one-to-one human relationship right at that point of contact.
Okay, let's follow this workflow to its conclusion. Let's say the psychology works. Damon Ishida takes the bait. He hits reply, fills out the origin ZIP, notes the total weight, specifies that he's shipping heavy architectural glass, and hits send. He is actively testing them.
The test has begun.
Right. And the clock is now ticking loudly. If GRG takes 3 days to manually cobble together a quote, the magic of that confident email is completely gone. How do they execute instantly?
This brings us to the execution phase, the commercial engine that powers the entire operation. When that email reply comes back, the data feeds directly into an intelligence platform they build called the Hawaii Rater.
Because quoting freight to Hawaii is notoriously slow and complicated, right? It's not like shipping a box from Ohio to Indiana.
Not at all. It's a completely different beast.
Okay.
You have to calculate the inland truck routing to a West Coast port, figure out the ocean container pricing, factor in fluctuating fuel surcharges, and deal with specialized handling. Usually this requires an operations expert pulling data from like 3 different legacy systems and running a giant spreadsheet just to build a single quote.
Exactly. And the Hawaii Rater automates that operational math. It takes the shipment profile Damon just emailed and runs it through NMFC classification.
And for those unfamiliar, what is NFC?
So NMFC stands for National Motor Freight Classification. It's essentially the universal pricing index that dictates how expensive a commodity is to ship based on its density, stowability, and handling requirements.
Got it.
The rater validates the density of the architectural glass, accounts for any accessorial charges like needing a liftgate at delivery, applies GRG specifically negotiated carrier rates, and instantly spits out a side-by-side comparison.
Oh, wow. So it does all that math in seconds.
Yes, it shows Damon the exact price, the optimized routing, and the estimated door-to-door transit time.
It turns days of manual operational math into an instant, highly defensible solution. They hand that clean comparison back to the customer, and the customer is left with a simple binary choice. The design notebook defines this decision point as I'd test this option versus not this one.
And this is where the closed-loop learning of the GRG system really separates itself from traditional sales. If Damon looks at the math and says, I'd test this option, that's fantastic. GRG crosses into execution, they verify his company's credit, and they book the freight.
But what if Damon replies and says, not this one? Like, what if he says, hey, your price is slightly better, but I have a 10-year ironclad relationship with my current logistics provider, so we are going to pass.
Well, in a traditional sales environment, that is a lost lead. The sales rep puts a frowny face in their CRM software, marks it as closed lost, and moves on to the next cold call.
Right, on to the next dart.
But in the GRG ecosystem, a rejection based on a current provider relationship is absolutely not a loss. It is captured, verified intelligence.
Ah, because now you know their details.
Exactly. It immediately pivots that prospect into a backup opportunity. Because the one shipment test, GRG now knows the exact dimensions, weight, and commodity of what Damon ships. They know his active routing lanes.
So they have all his actual operational data.
Right. So the human rep simply replies and says, no problem at all. Keep our routing on file for when your current provider has a capacity failure or misses a critical pickup, or when you suddenly need an expedited one-day service.
That is brilliant. They instantly position themselves as the designated safety net.
Yep. And every single response, positive or negative, feeds back into the AI to teach it which exact subsets of companies are most responsive, incrementally improving the next batch of research.
If we zoom out from the specifics of Hawaii freight logistics, the overarching design principle here is just profound. GRG's foundational philosophy is that technology strengthens human expertise. It does not replace it.
That is the core message, yeah.
They are utilizing artificial intelligence to do the grueling, high-volume scale work, crawling public records, verifying supplier relationships across thousands of pages, collecting evidence, making sure a company actually exists and moves freight. But they are keeping human beings firmly, immovably in charge of the judgment work.
Because that's what humans are for.
Right. Humans dictate the overall strategy, humans govern the pricing models, humans make the final nuanced call on contact resolution, and humans build the actual trust with the buyer.
It is a perfect, realistic symbiosis. The AI executes what it is inherently best at, pattern recognition and data verification at a massive scale. And the human executes what they are best at, nuance, strategic negotiation, and trust building.
So for you listening right now, thinking back to that overwhelming, chaotic database or that inbox full of automated spam, here's the main takeaway from the GRG Prospecting Intelligence System. This framework is not designed to help you send more email.
Definitely not.
It is a closed-loop intelligence system designed to make every single piece of outreach completely defensible, heavily researched, and highly measurable. They actively want fewer prospects, but they demand significantly stronger evidence before they ever reach out. Think about your own daily operations. How could you apply that fewer but stronger philosophy to your own workflow? How much wasted time could you reclaim if you stopped chasing the exhausting numbers game and started demanding verifiable evidence before you engage a target?
It's a powerful, necessary shift in mindset for modern business. However, looking at how flawlessly this operates does raise one final, somewhat provocative question about the future of commerce.
What's that?
Well, everything we've unpacked today relies on GRG utilizing AI to perfectly research and pitch a human buyer, like Damon Ishida. The human executive is the ultimate decision maker in that test-us loop.
Right. Damon has to make the final call.
But what happens in 3 to 5 years when the buyer is also deploying an AI agent to filter their inbox, analyze landed costs, and manage their supply chain?
Oh, wow. That is a wild thought.
Yeah.
You have the seller's AI optimizing the pitch and the buyer's AI gatekeeping the inbox.
Exactly. Will we soon see a business landscape where the seller's AI and the buyer's AI are just silently negotiating shipping rates, transit times, and accessorial charges in milliseconds, completely bypassing the human loop altogether?
Just bots talking to bots.
Right. Does the carefully researched treasure map eventually just become a sterile set of coordinates that two machines trade in the dark while the humans just watch the tracking numbers update?
Think about that the next time you stare down a massive, overwhelming database, wondering who is actually on the other side of the data.